Hey everyone, James from TeaDb here, bringing you another Inbetweenisode. So it's not a ripe, but this is the ripe format basically. So those of you that haven't been watching it, this is how I brew ripes with this big blue pot. Tends to be a little more casual. I drink it daily with my wife. So right now, usually a little bit after lunch, I'll drink the rest of the tea and brew it out. So this is about the fourth or the fifth steep of this tea. So this is actually a tea that I brought onto an Inbetweenisode a few years back when I got it. It's a 2008 Liubao from W2T. And it was in the Tea of the Month Club back when I was in it, so it's been a while. One thing that's good about drinking sort of my own habits and drinking ripes is I can go back and I can finish a lot of these teas that I've had sitting around for a while. So this is what remains of what was once a 250 gram brick. About to break up the rest of this, put it in my little tin jar, and probably finish this up over the next week or so. So yeah, it's been interesting to have it in this context because it's a pretty direct comparison, because I've been drinking teas in this sort of manner for about a year now, and so I can compare it fairly. The contrast between this and the ripes that I'm having is fairly obvious because A, I get a lot of repetitions with this tea, whatever tea I'm drinking in the mornings, and B, I can compare it versus the cakes, the ripe cakes that I've been drinking through. So Liubao to me is pretty much a direct replacement for ripe. It's just a very similar type of tea. Definitely not identical, but for me it really occupies the same niche. It's sort of like smoother, easier to drink. Most of the greenness, at least for the bulk of Liubao, which is ripe Liubao. So I am on here. I'm going to give you this steep. It's soft, it's nutty, it's somewhat creamy. Sounds a bit like a ripe, I would say. I would say that the main difference between this and the ripes that I've been having, which tend to be Munghai or Yunnan sourcing or white tea, is that it's a little less rich. It's not quite as thick in the mouthfeel, I'd say, compared to an average ripe, and it's not quite as sweet either. Ripes tend to have this really similarly soft texture, but it's a little different. This one I'd say is probably nuttier. Liubao is known for sort of a betel nut taste to it. I am not familiar enough with that with betel nuts, I guess, to say that this is definitively has that, but it definitely, there's a nutty characteristic to this that you would not get with ripes. I would also definitely say, yeah, that I do enjoy it a little bit less than ripes. It's an interesting contrast for sure, but one difference also is that it's grown in a different province. So rather than being grown in Yunnan, it's Guangxi. Yunnan tends to have a lot of large leaf varietal, so that may play certainly into the differences here. They also have a slightly different wet pile processing. I've noticed that this tea in particular tends to brew a little bit of a lighter shade of dark, of like reddish black, than the ripe tea that I'm brewing on with sort of brewing in the morning. So yeah, I'd say I do enjoy it a little bit less than those teas. It has the same sort of soft texture. My wife could immediately tell it was a different tea, so I guess it's probably fairly obvious. The aroma has a lot of that dry wood nuttiness to it as well. This one's a little bit woodier. I brewed this next infusion a little bit longer, a little bit less soft, a little bit less creamy. I'd say it's a little bit of a sharper taste as well when compared to sort of the average ripe I bring onto the show. Yeah, so similar but different, I would say, overall. And I do recommend people try Liubao, try some of these other types of dark teas that are maybe a little bit less popular than Pu'er. I think in particular Liubao is a really good contrast versus ripe. I am giving this a 5.0 rating. So it's something that I find drinkable. This would not find its way into the compost bin, but it's also definitely not my favorite. I like probably 85 to 90% of the ripes I have more than teas like this. So I don't know if that's going to be true for all Liubaos just in general or just this particular one. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Let me know how you like this tea. If you have this 2008 Liubao, if you were a member of the club back then, you probably still have it lying around. Let's be realistic. But I am about to finish mine. So let me know how you like this tea and how you like this episode. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time. Cheers.